This is the Horse Radio Network. This is episode 111 of Horse Tip Daily, a different horse tip, a different equine topic, a different equestrian expert every day. Horse Tip Daily brings the world of equine knowledge to you one day at a time. Enjoy today's tip. This is Glenn the Geek from Lexington, Kentucky, and you're listening to Horse Tip Daily, and you only have 3 shopping days left till Christmas. Well, you know, we have something special coming up for you tomorrow on the Horse Radio Network. We're going to be releasing on all of the shows a little conversation we had between the full-time hosts of the Horse Radio Network. We had Chris Stafford from Eventing and Dressage. We had Helena B. from the Stable Scoop Radio Show and Samantha Clark from the 2010 show. We all got together on Skype, and we had a conversation about this year and what the year was like in the past year on all the shows and what's coming up and about the holidays and Christmas memories. It was just a lot of fun. We'll be playing that on tomorrow's Horse Tip Daily show as well as all the other shows. So we'll have the same content on all the shows this week, so you really only have to listen to us once. It saves us time on the holiday and it saves you time as well. But we would love for you to listen in and just hear us chatting about the past year and what's coming up next year on the Horse Radio Network. We'd love for you to do that. But today we have with us Max Corcoran, who is the longtime groom for international eventer Karen O'Connor. And she gets together with us occasionally. Well, this past week, she was the co-host on the Eventing Radio Show, and she did a fantastic job. Matter of fact, she has a great radio voice. This tip is taken from episode number, let me look it up here so I don't mess it up. It is taken from episode number 55. And on that episode, they also had Mark Phillips, Captain Mark Phillips, speaking on some current issues facing eventing. And Chris had gotten that interview at the United States Eventing Association annual conference. But it was very nice of Max to fill in this week on the Eventing Radio Show. It was a last-minute thing, and she was very gracious to do it. So we're going to get right here to Chris Stafford, the co-host of the show, and Max Corcoran, and their tip of the week from the Eventing Radio Show, episode number 55.
But talking about traveling north and south, this really leads very nicely into our topic of the week, Max, and that is about traveling horses. You know, the kind of things that riders and owners need to be mindful of when they make those environmental and climatic changes to a horse, whether it's going from Virginia down to Florida or from, Florida to Minnesota. There are always considerations to make. And so I wanted to just talk through those because I know that's going to lead to our tip of the week. And because you've been traveling horses now for how long?
Oh, many, many years. I don't divulge my age, please. It's been a while.
But let's just go through some of the considerations because clearly the most important thing is what you put in the horse, what is exposed to, the hay, the feed, the water. Let's start with that.
I mean, a lot of times when we're traveling down here to Florida, we know when we come to Florida, the grass quality of our grass here in Florida is not as good as the grass quality we have in Virginia. So we make sure we have our hay, the forage, that whatever it is that we feed our horses is a higher quality forage than what we have to feed them in Virginia. Sadly, we usually have to pay a lot more money for our hay in Florida. So we do some research on that to make sure that we've got some fairly good quality hay down here. The other thing that we have to worry about in Florida, and I think the folks that go to Aiken as well, is that there's a lot of sand. And horses will eat, not that you're feeding your horses on the sand, but with the grass there's a lot of sand that comes into their system, which can lead to sand colic and such like that. So we give our horses different types of sand clear supplements once a week or once a month for an entire week. It's some sort of a psyllium-based product that helps to clear all the sand out of their system. And we always keep our horses on corn oil, which also helps to keep all that sand and such moving. Other things that definitely are worthy of noting is water can taste different to horses in different areas. And to make sure if your horse isn't drinking water very well, obviously water is so important when you're traveling a horse long distances to make sure that they're staying hydrated so they don't get an impaction colic. And they stay properly hydrated so they're not going to have a tie-up or anything. So to make sure that your horse is going to be able to drink the water. Also, too, if you're going from a horse that's used to being in a warm climate into a cold climate, a lot of times they don't like to drink water that's very cold, so sometimes it's nice to be able to add some warm water to their water buckets, and sometimes that will definitely increase their drinking.
Interesting. So would the hay down in Florida be grown in that area, or does it have to be brought in?
Sadly, no, the grass does not grow so well down here. We have to plant winter rye in the wintertime to be able to help with the nutrients of the ground. It's mostly a sand. There's a little bit of a loam soil here, but it's not a very thick ground cover that our grass isn't. So we usually have to get it shipped in from the hay that we get from a buyer in Ohio, and he brings it down to us once a month. Or whenever we need it, and there's other places that ship hay in from the Northwest, but typically it's a lot more expensive than what we would have to pay in Virginia. And then, in reverse, when we go back up to Virginia, where grass is so rich, usually we're back up there in May in the highest growing season. We have to be very careful when our horses first get turned out that they don't eat too much. So we usually our rules are always 1 hour the first day, 2 hours the second day, 3 hours the third day, 4 hours the fourth day, and from there they're usually pretty good. But if a horse is out on that rich grass too much too soon, they can make them very, very sick.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else that you take into account when you're moving horses? I mean, do you always take your own feed from that's consistent from Virginia to Florida and back?
First, we're very lucky. We're sponsored by Penfield Seed, and they actually sell the Penfield grain down here. And so we're in very good contact with our supplier that's down here and our supplier that's up in Virginia. And we let them know as we're coming down when we're going to be down and how many horses we're bringing and what they're actually eating. So the grain stores where we actually pick up the grain is fully stocked with whatever it is that we need by the time we get down here, we're very lucky to have that. But to be able to make sure that you're on either the same grain or the same protein, fat, fiber level of grain from wherever you are, from one place to the other. If you can, the best thing to do is to bring at least 1 or 2 bags of grain if you are going to switch grains, so then you can slowly train your horse into the new grain. You can slowly turn them over to the new one by mixing the 2 grains together and then slowly weaning them off the original grain.
Well, that leads us to really, I think, our tip of the week here, Max, and the importance of that gradual progression from one feeding regime to another, and the same with hay. So how would you summarize that?
I would say my tip of the week would be to be proactive to wherever it is. If you are traveling somewhere, whether it's for just a short competition or if you're traveling down for a season, to be very proactive and to either, if you're traveling for a short period of time, try to bring all your hay and grain with you. But if you're not, if you're going down for a long period of time, call ahead and find out what kind of soil, what kind of grass, what kind of hay you're going to need down there, and what kind of grain you're going to be able to get in both places to be able to keep your horse very, very healthy.
Terrific. Well, that's a great tip, and I have just one final question on that for you, Max, to give us some advice to our listeners. If your horse doesn't drink when you relocate to a different venue, what would you advise?
There are many things you can do with all the traveling I've done. Actually, with some of the team horses, when we went to Rio, they had filtered water, and so they actually had us add some apple juice to the horses' water to make sure that they were going to drink it, and that worked out really, really well for some of the horses. Other things you can do, you can add some salt into their grain, which was going to help to make them drink a little bit. If you have a horse that will not drink and still has not drunk for a while, you can always call your veterinarian to come out and to give your horse fluids, whether it's intranasal or intravenous, to make sure that your horse has got fluids in its system. But you can add electrolytes. You can bran mashes are also a very good way to get water into their system. Wetting their hay is a good way to get them into their system. There's many ways to be able to get it done. Just be try to work that out. And if it's cold, add some warm water. That a lot of times they will like to do that.
Well, thank you to Max and Chris again for bringing us that tip from the Eventing Radio Show, episode number 55. Well, tomorrow we'll be here with our special hosts Christmas episode, just sharing some memories and chatting about the year and what's coming up next year. It should be a lot of fun. We encourage you to join in. We want you to listen in, and we want to get your feedback. So drop me an email at glenn@horseradionetwork.com. Let me know what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, what you'd like to see improved, and what would make your listening experience better. So do that at glenn@horseradionetwork.com. And don't forget to check out all the great shows on the network at horseradionetwork.com. Well, I'll be back again next Monday with another new expert and a different horse tip. Until then, have a very Merry Christmas, everybody, and we're looking forward to a new year in 2010. But until then, stay safe. Give your horses a carrot on Christmas Day. Give them a hug. Tell them you love them. Do the same with your family, and we'll see you on Monday.